If you're unfamiliar with Andy Greenberg, he's a journalist who's blown the whistle on several of the technology scandals that have happened over the years. Well, one of the books that he's written that I read this year was called Sandworm, A New Era of Cyber War, and the Hunt for the Kremlin's Most Dangerous Hackers. This book covers the operations of some of Russia's state-sponsored hackers who've done everything from meddle with news stations to creating full-scale blackouts across critical infrastructure, power grids, utilities, hospitals in 2015. And Greenberg's investigations uncovered this, that the same group that was responsible for snuffing out the power grid and creating chaos around 250,000 Ukrainians had infected North American electric utilities with the same malware, and also that the Obama administration was virtually silent about all of this, despite there being overwhelming evidence pointing to Russia, which essentially sends the message that they can act with impunity. Now, this book was written in 2019 as a warning to us that history can repeat itself. And fast forward to this month of 2023. In the past week or so, there have been several articles pointing to cyber attacks done by China on the US, such as the Washington Post. China is ramping up its ability to disrupt key US infrastructure, security officials say. The intrusions are part of a broader effort to develop ways to sow chaos or snarl logistics in the event of a US-China conflict in the Pacific, officials say. The article then goes on to address some of the infrastructure that was targeted, including a water utility in Hawaii, an oil and gas pipeline, and a power grid in Texas, attributing this to hackers affiliated with China's People Liberation Army. Now with this, there have been several schools of thought. For one, people think this is a giant government conspiracy. Because in addition to this month, Netflix released a documentary produced by the Obamas called Leave the World Behind, where the plot is a cyber attack. And also, back at the World Economic Forum in 2020, Charles Schwab predicted that there was going to be a cyber pandemic in the coming years.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
Notice how he said that this was going to be larger than the COVID pandemic. Next, we have the World Economic Forum in 2021, when they launched Cyber Polygon, where tech companies can simulate a cyber pandemic. And people reference Event 201, which is a simulation conducted at the 2019 World Economic Forum. It covered everything from lockdowns to vaccine mandates, and then within the next 6 months, the entire world is shut down. They are attributing this to predictive programming, to which I have this to say. Whether or not you agree with that, it's important to remember that during the COVID pandemic, many people who were skeptical about the entire situation, from masks to lockdowns to vaccines, were silenced on many levels. And as a free thinker, it's your prerogative to speak up if something doesn't feel right. If this feels like deja vu, go with your gut. Because if we've learned anything, it's that many of these things are not mere coincidences. On the other side of things, there are people who believe that China is trying to instill fear within us should there be another conflict with China.
Concerning and rattling lawmakers in D.C. and also we're hearing the White House as well, that China, also on top of all what Jillian reported, also tried to break into the operator of the Texas power grid. They operate independently from electrical systems in the rest of the U.S. We understand.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more apparent to us that China is preparing to launch some kind of a all-out cyber attack on the United States if, in fact, we find ourselves in conflict with them over Taiwan.
And if that is the case, this wouldn't be the first time that China has warned us against associating with Taiwan in the slightest. In 2022, when House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was going to visit Taiwan, China warned her, saying it would take resolute and forceful measures to defend its national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Now, Nancy Pelosi's visit happened on August 2nd, and by August 4th, there was already retaliation. China had fired missiles in waters off of Taiwan, including fire jets and bombers, which just goes to show how brazen they are. So if this truly is China, it could be very dangerous because they take their word very seriously. And while it isn't new for China to be launching cyber attacks on the United States, it appears more recently that it's been more frequent and targeting more critical infrastructure. And what happens when China is able to build tools strong enough where they deliver a blackout on the same scale or even greater than what Russia was able to do with Ukraine? Because one of the greatest takeaways from Sandworm is that this can escalate very quickly into human casualty. Take, for example, the hospital systems. The book cited a study that states that traffic delays of even 5 minutes or less can lead to a 4% increased chance of death. And Russia's cyber attacks on Ukraine generally lasted for only a few hours. But what happens when that turns into days, weeks, or even a month at a time across many large metro areas? I realize this is conspiracy theory adjacent, but I think it's important to wake up to what's going on around us. Whether this is China or a government conspiracy theory, Andy Greenberg warned us in 2019 that we're looking at a potential future of cyber warfare, and it appears it's here quicker than expected. And cyber warfare is very much different than military warfare because it knows no geographical borders. And as Andy Greenberg said, in a dimension of conflict without borders, we are all on the front line. And if we fail to heed the motherland's warnings, we may all share its same fate. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, hopefully I've earned a subscription. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and here's some more videos for you to watch. Until next time, peace out.